Well, what a week it's been for Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Despite being 72 years old, he has revealed officially that yes, he is going to try his hand at the XFL again, despite it being one of his biggest failures. We'll get there. But this is why McMahon is quite the inspiration. It doesn't matter that it didn't work out before. He believes he can do something within that field, so that's what he's going to try and do. Vince will gamble if he feels he should. It's not the first time he's done it either, and probably not the last. Throughout his time as WWE chairman, he's made some truly shocking calls that maybe a lot of us wouldn't have done. Whether they were right or not is up for debate, but either way, you have to tip your hat to him. He doesn't muck around. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is Vince McMahon's 10 biggest gambles. Number 10, ending the streak. Pretty much everyone loved the Undertaker's streak. It's one of those things we all looked forward to every year, and a lot of individuals genuinely thought it would never end. More fool them, eh? There was some sense to this too, given how many people had tried to topple it and failed. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, CM Punk, Giant Gonzalez, and none of those guys could do it, so who could possibly upset the dead man on the grandest stage? Come WrestleMania 30, however, Vince McMahon decided it was time to cash in on the 21-0 streak and create a star within a star. And that's why Brock Lesnar did the unthinkable that night and beat the Phenom 1-2-3 in the middle of that damn ring. Now, while it did help Lesnar no end, the long-term goal, of course, would be to pass this magic on to whoever beat Brock, which we now know is probably going to be Roman Reigns. There's a whole lot of other nonsense tied up in that, especially because today Reigns himself has bested the Undertaker at Mania, but whatever. Whether it worked out or not is up to you, but if nothing else, it did make Lesnar magic for a good year or so. And who knows, maybe Roman makes it all work. He won't, but positivity and all that. Technically, the gamble hasn't even paid off yet. Technically. Number 9, the budget invasion. McMahon had two ways he could have booked the WCW Invasion in 2001. The first was to pay an insane amount of money for the likes of Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, Sting and Ric Flair and get them out of their Time Warner contracts. The other way was not to do that. Vince chose the latter. The problem straight away was that no fan on the planet was going to be truly happy unless they saw these main eventers, so when they didn't, instantly it all fell apart. And sure, Booker T and DDP were awesome, but they weren't on the same level. And then there was Shawn Stasiak. Exactly. The logic was that if McMahon did splash the cash, he would upset the then WWE wage structure and have to increase the salaries of Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock and everybody else. So from a business standpoint, it didn't make any sense, especially as there was the idea of waiting for these deals to expire and then negotiating with any talent that wanted to come in. Unfortunately though, doing that meant the invasion felt incredibly weak and was over before it even got going. The pay-per-view dedicated to it still did 700,000 buys. Just think what could have happened if the big boys had come in. Financially it may have made sense, but otherwise, madness. Number 8, extending Raw to 3 hours. If things were perfect, I actually don't think Vince McMahon would have Raw at 3 hours. He's gone on record saying he believes a perfect running time for a wrestling show is 90 minutes, but money talks. Money talks hard. So in the summer of 2012, when the USA Network wanted to add an extra hour onto Raw for a load more revenue, naturally the answer was yes. WWE is still a business at the end of the day, and your bottom line is what's important. With that said, it's been a huge reason for declining ratings since this decision was made, and we've all seen how difficult it is to make 3 hours of Raw entertaining. It's a smart gamble as it's lining everyone's pockets, but maybe there are some ramifications here that we haven't even seen as of yet. Only time will tell. Number 7, attitude. We all know the story of how bad a spot WWE was in during the mid-90s. WCW was kicking ass, ECW was the cool brand, and Vince was left trying to think of something to make his product stand out. The answer, as we know, was to head in a bold new direction and almost embrace what Jerry Springer was doing during this era, or in short, introduce a sharp edge to the television show. A very early look at this was the now infamous Steve Austin and Brian Pillman segment, where Pillman actually shot at Austin with a gun who was trying to break into his house. That's a far cry from a guy wearing a mask and pretending he's going to repossess your belongings. That's why it both worked and didn't though. It was so realistic compared to what had come before, some people thought it was legit and they were mad. USA received tons of complaints about what they had seen, and Vince was warned by the network to tone things down. He clearly did not do this and in fact went in the other direction, but no one was moaning when Raw started doing record numbers. With that in mind, clearly this gamble paid off for Vince and then some. It's why they've got to where they are today. Number 6, the WBF. I love bodybuilding. It's one of my oldest passions and I built my entire life around it in many ways. But even I wouldn't have been swayed by the WBF or the World Bodybuilding Federation that Vince tried to start during the mid-80s. Basically the wrestling template but with dudes flexing. McMahon saw a world where he could host pay-per-views and even get into the nutrition game at the same time. ICO Pro would be the supplement every man with some bicep wanted. That didn't happen at all. After a ton of money had been spent on it, the company only lasted 2 years and in that time only put on 2 events. It was risky to begin with, but the fallout from the thing really was pretty bad. Somewhat ironically, if he tried today, McMahon may have done better given how big bodybuilding has become, or maybe that's the reason he would have failed regardless. Either way, this was bad. Number 5, the XFL. As was the XFL. Mentioned at the start of this video, the real idea behind both the original concept and the one launching in 2020 is that McMahon doesn't just want to be remembered as the best wrestling promoter of all time, but one of the best promoters, period. It's the whole reason the Extreme Football League was born. I really do respect Vince for giving it a go too, but attempt 1 at this did not work in any sense. While he had a partner in NBC and some nifty ideas, some of which the NFL is using today, the only high point was strong ratings during the first week before it imploded. Even Vince himself later admitted it was a colossal failure, and the amount of money lost would make you cry. However, if we learn from our failures, then were they really failures at all? We'll find out in 2 years. Number 4, going public. The reason I imagine Vince McMahon didn't want to take the WWE public at one stage is because he didn't want to have to answer to a bunch of dudes in suits. If he's the sole owner, he can do whatever the hell he wants, and that sounds like something he'd enjoy. However, McMahon is also a savvy businessman and understands how the world works, which is why in October of 1999, the WWE did indeed go public, meaning investors and even fans could buy and sell shares in the company should they so wish. And credit to McMahon, because more or less it's been a great move. Even though surely there are some stockholders who don't understand wrestling, he's been able to appease them, and after the XFL 2 announcement, shares actually hit a record high. That just means everyone involved is going to be very happy. Of course, this has also changed how the company is run and the product we see on screen, but again, WWE is a business, and this was a very good business move. Number 3, the WWE Network. You know, even years after launching with plenty of stats to jump into, I still don't think anyone can claim that the network is a success or a failure. There are certainly things in hindsight WWE could have done better. I don't think having Mania as part of the package makes any sense now, but this is clearly a long game by Vince and one that could pay dividends. Deciding in February 2014 he wanted to leave the pay-per-view model behind, despite that being a huge source of income since the first WrestleMania, he wanted to Netflix and future-proof the company, hoping that sooner or later it would just be the way of things. And as we have seen, it is profitable, even if it's meant WWE cutting back in other areas. The numbers aren't what we were told they could be by this stage, and there does seem to be a similar pattern when it comes to those who come and go, but still, unless something drastic happens, this should work out well as we plough forward. No reason for it not to. Number 2, admitting wrestling as a work. Real talk. Most people knew something was a little fishy with pro wrestling before 1989. Didn't take too much to work it out, but as a lot of wrestlers took pride in protecting these secrets, at least what happened on TV was as real as possible. Keeping that aspect alive was paramount. When Vince McMahon saw an opportunity to save some cash though, he decided we didn't need this anymore. On the 10th of February 1989, in front of the New Jersey State Senate, McMahon declared that wrestling was sports entertainment. The fights were predetermined, so he could get wrestling deregulated and no longer be at the mercy of state commissions. Once more, from a business standpoint, this was awesome. He just saved his company money. But he'd also helped kill kayfabe, and we all know the arguments that's caused throughout the years. And if not, just go on Twitter right now. This also led to the presentation of wrestling changing, as today it's more scripted because it can be. Whether or not this was a good thing is going to differ on the person, but all sports have to evolve. This was pro wrestling's, and either way, there's no going back. Number 1, WrestleMania. While there's more to it than this, as soon as Vince McMahon had taken over the then WWF from his father, he went to war with everybody else. He ignored the codes of honor, tempted top talent lacrosse, and decided he wanted to go national, an idea that other promoters did not like at all. To prove that his company was the biggest of the bunch, he followed the lead of the Crockett family by running an event on closed circuit TV, only investing much more money into his major show. That event was WrestleMania, and the fallout from it was pure success. Vince brought in major celebrities to make it immediately appear like this was a big deal, and in no time at all, the WWF leapfrogged the AWA and the NWA to establish itself as the most powerful wrestling organization there was. So really, this was a very, very smart gamble, and kind of one that made Vince McMahon the big guy he is today.
Gosh, can you believe that person said that about that particular video on that entry? I sure can't. But you should like, share and subscribe below anyway. And also, the people who made this video, they're right here. Go follow them and give them some love. Also, there's more content, probably above my head. Check it out. Or don't. 50-50.